Danny Christensen, how are you doing, man?
Good. Wish we had a better result from the match yesterday, but definitely made some good progress as a team. But I'm doing pretty dang well. Pretty dang
Yeah,
well.
man. How do you like Dallas? You loving
It's good.
Texas so far?
Yeah, it's been great. I think culturally, it's a nice new change of pace. I've been a single adult male in Utah for about 5 years now, and so I was like, it's time to. It's nice to be in a different social scene, I think, in some ways. But really just getting a new opportunity with a new team, a new organization to, I guess, just kind of go out there and prove myself. Like that's really, really exciting to me. So I was really excited for that opportunity for sure.
One of the signs that I saw that I loved on Saturday, it said Danny Christensen, Utah built, Dallas appreciated, or something like that. I was like,
Yeah,
that's a solid
yeah.
sign.
My family, obviously, as you saw at the game, they're pretty passionate, and I think it kind of broke their hearts a little bit when Utah was like, "Hey, we'll trade you if you want to be traded." And I said, "Yeah, trade me. Like, go ahead and trade me," because they basically said they weren't going to re-sign me and thought I was a little bit too old. And so they asked me like, "Well, do you want us to try and trade you?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so when I think my family found that out, I think that it was hard because they were like, "Oh, we love being able to watch him play every week. We come to all the games." Like, I mean, I probably had 30 season ticket holders between family members and friends, and they all loved coming to the games. So I think it was like my family was a little bit sad when they found out about it, but at the same time, like super proud and super excited that I was going to continue to pursue my passion.
I don't think very many people know that the way that you got signed onto the Warriors in the first place was that you just went into the practice squad. You went up straight to the head coach and you're like, dude, I just want to play. Can I practice with you at least? Like,
Yeah.
how was that experience for you?
To be honest, I'll never forget it. It was probably like a third of the way into the season, year one of the MLR. And I literally just walked up to Alf Daniels. They were like finishing because it was in the winter. They were practicing outdoors at a field in Lehigh that first year. And they were in a parking garage, like doing just like some passing drills because I think it was snowing. And they like did like the team cheer. They broke it up, and then I literally just walked straight up to him. I remember I was so nervous, but I just walked straight up to him. I was like, "Hey, my name's Danny Christensen, and I just want to practice with you guys." Because I went to the combine year one. I played with like the Salt Lake Select 15, which was like the precursor to the Warriors. And what I always heard from administration was, "We got something for you. We just haven't quite formalized exactly what it's going to be. It's not going to be a contract, but you will be involved in some way." And after hearing that for about 4 or 5 months, I finally just rocked up and said, "Can I just practice with you guys?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." I bought my own practice kit, and I wasn't ever in consideration that first year. But the boys honestly really kind of rallied around me, which was really fun. They saw the way that it was like, "Yeah, you can be here, but like just don't mess anything up," almost. But some of the boys were like super, super supportive of me. Like the Tomalau brothers, they were just like kind of almost like my protectors. It felt like to the admin side, as I was like I said, in some ways, I don't want to say it was a nuisance, but like, frankly, I just showed up and said, "Hey, can I?" after they already told me no. So like, I kind of understand why they were like, "Look, my guy, like you tried hard, but we're just not interested." But yeah, it was a really fun, interesting, nerve-wracking experience. But I'm glad I did it, because if I hadn't have done that, I doubt that I would still be playing rugby. Probably playing club every now and then, but I definitely wouldn't be playing professionally.
But you started with Highland Rugby Club, but then
Mhm.
that was just like a club team at the high school level because you went to Olympus High, and so they didn't have like an official team for the high school, right?
Yeah, yeah, back in those days, I think we had 8 high school rugby teams in the state of Utah, and they were all technically club. The majority of them had a strong like core group from one particular high school. But the majority of them were, we played against Murray, who had tons of kids from all over the place. We played against Hunter, who had kids from all over the place. We played against Davis, who had kids from all over the place. Alta, kids from all over the place. Skyline. And so it was just kind of you just showed up and just played for whatever team. And the head coach just so happened to be my uncle. And so I grew up around the Highland rugby team from the time I was teeny tiny. So I always knew that I wanted to play rugby.
Did you ever anticipate playing another sport or want to play another sport or anything like that?
I was actually going to go play at Snow College. I was going to play football at Snow College. I was just going to be a preferred walk-on. So I didn't have a scholarship or anything, but I was on the team if I wanted to be, and decided last minute to play rugby instead. And here I am living in Dallas playing rugby.
You were at the U of U, right?
Uh-huh.
You got a
Yep.
degree in business administration. If my
Yep.
research is right.
Yep, that is exactly right. That is exactly.
Oh, good. What were you doing between the time that you actually got on the team, got a contract, and you know, when you approached the coaches about being on the practice squad?
So I approached the coaches about being on the practice squad year one. I practiced with the team for the last half of that season.
Mhm.
And then year two, I went back to the combine and they basically told me like, thanks, but no thanks. And I was like, all right. And I figured, you know, I put my hand up. I did everything I could. So year two, I wasn't a part of the team at all. I wasn't a part of the MLR. I wasn't a part of the Warriors at all. And then that summer after that season, Ben Nichols coached with Jeff Hollinger, a sevens team with a bunch of the Warriors boys. And it was that like precursor, like Utah sevens team that had gone to nationals in the past and won a couple national championships. So we got that team together, and Ben Nichols was playing for the Warriors those first 2 years. And then the third year he was transitioning to be a coach, which was the COVID year. So at the very end of preseason year three, I didn't even show up to the combine year three. I was like, they told me no twice. Plus I showed up and, you know, just asked to practice with them. So I was like, if they wanted me, they would let me know, you know? And so after playing sevens for Ben and Jeff, Ben, of course, was then coaching at the Warriors year three. He then reached out to me and said, hey, we need a third string scrum half. He's like, we're not going to pay you. You'll be on a trainee contract, which basically means you practice for free and you're a part of the team for free. It's like, you'll get all the gear, but like you'll be around the team. Are you interested in that? And I said, absolutely. So year three, which was COVID year, we had 6 games. I was like right on the cusp for selection for the 6th game against Seattle, but I had to miss a day of practice that week for work. I was traveling to Nashville, I think, for a work trip. And so I missed a day of practice. And so Chris Latham was like, look, we're just going to take Dwayne, even though he's got a little bit of an injury. We're just going to bring him because unfortunately you're not going to be able to be at practice. So Michael Baska ended up going 90 minutes that game. I think that was Michael Baska's first start for the Warriors. Yeah, they went 10 extra minutes and the Warriors ended up winning that game. It was like the coolest thing ever. I was about to be selected, but I wasn't because of work, and I committed to myself that day. I was like, I will never let something get in the way of me getting an opportunity to play professional rugby ever again. The 4th season, so 2 seasons ago, they reached back out to me, said the exact same thing. Hey, we're willing to bring you in. We're not going to pay you. You'll be on a trainee contract and you're anticipated to be our third stringer. And it was like week 4, week 5, I was selected for my first 23. My first 2 times I was selected, I literally rode the bench all 80 minutes, didn't even get in the game. But once you're selected, they have to start paying you. So they signed me to an hourly contract that year. The next year they signed me to a salary. And then of course this year, and then I signed a 2-year with Dallas. So this year in Dallas, I'll be, well, I guess will technically be my 4th year of like actually contracted, being paid to play. But I was on the team year 3 as well, and then kind of on the team year 1.
What work were you doing? Like what job took you away from playing rugby?
So I was going to school full time. I was playing rugby full time, and so I actually started a sales career when I was like 21 years old. A lot of it was like pretty low dollar B2C type sales. And then as I progressed through my degree, got into some pharmaceutical sales. Didn't love that industry much. Felt like it was a little slimy. So I had a friend of mine from high school who was actually a pretty big mentor of mine professionally. He reached out and recommended and had a job for me. He's like, hey, if you want to come over and start working in software. So I worked in software sales I still do like contracting software sales work. I do have on my LinkedIn currently that like I am working in partnerships for a company called Order Protection, which has been really cool. So having that like 8-9 years of professional experience makes it so in my time off with rugby, I can, make some supplemental income with some consulting type stuff. So it's been an interesting ride, but it's actually turned out to be pretty dang beneficial for me the way it's actually ended up. I think you do hear about a lot of different, like, I don't remember who it was. It's like Oprah Winfrey didn't make her big break or like commit to acting or whatever it was until she was like 38. Or, you
Yeah.
hear about Denzel Washington didn't make his first role until he was like 36 or something crazy like that. And it's just like I got my I got my actual first contract where I was actually being paid at the age of 30. And it's just like, it's just not very common. I'm just pretty lucky. And it just goes to show that sometimes if you put in a little extra grit and you just don't take no for an answer, that sometimes it ends up working out. Wants to make an appearance.
How is Milo?
Honestly loving it. I think the first like 2 to 3 weeks, he kind of struggled with it, but he's definitely gotten used to it now, and he's pretty dang spoiled. One of my teammates, Adrian Boyson, his wife was actually taking care of him while we were in Salt Lake this last weekend, and she just spoiled the heck out of him. So he's doing just fine.
Christensen's don't quit, man. Where does this come from? I mean, obviously you're exemplifying that. Where does that motto come from?
Good question. It's been in the family since my grandpa said it to my dad and his siblings. Like it's just always been a part of the family mantra, and we do our best to live up to it. That's for sure. But my wrist tape in my very first start against Atlanta 2 years ago, I had one that had CDQ, Christensen's don't quit, and then CDL, Christensen's don't lie. Those are like the family mottos, and those are two things I definitely do my best to live by, and living by it in this situation has turned into a really, really fun, cool opportunity for me.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So family motto gets passed down, the family ranch, which is the secret location. I do know that you're pulling elk out of that ranch. Do you prefer the elk, or do you prefer the trout that you're pulling out of the river there?
Definitely the elk.
Yeah.
I actually, unfortunately, we just didn't have much time when we were in Salt Lake, but I actually have a foam cooler that I was going to go and fill up with a bunch of my elk meat and bring it home with me. But I didn't have a chance to stop by my house and get it. But yeah, definitely a big fan of elk meat. It's super lean, super high in protein. And honestly, like, it's pretty dang good.
Do you have any memories of playing in Highland rugby? Anything that stuck out to you that stays with you now?
There's actually a lot. I mean, the movie Forever Strong came out about the Highland rugby team and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of mantras and stuff that really were preached by the coaches. Like, they really did do a really good job of helping us to become better men. And it was really impactful. Specific memories on the field. My senior year at the national championship tournament, I was named MVP of the tournament. And that was really, really fun. I got to finish with my last, I guess it was technically my last game for Highland rugby in the United States, because we went on a tour to Tonga and New Zealand. But in my last game in the United States in the national championship, scored a try, was named MVP. Like, that was a really, really fun, cool experience for me, for sure. I think it demands a level of humility with a level of confidence to play rugby, because any given moment, any given second, you can be absolutely destroyed by somebody. But at the same time, you can always get a good shot or get around somebody or do something that gives you that confidence in the other direction. And there's something about that, like, balance between confidence and humility that rugby players have that is just, it's a different quality that you can't really find anywhere else.
it takes a very special person to be able to hit somebody as hard as they absolutely can, and then the next second have their head pushed into the dirt by their own teammate and be totally fine and be like, yeah, no, that's just how the game goes.
Yeah, it's okay. This is just the game that I play. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm going to naughty Fiji, do I visit Sabeto Hot Springs or do I take a day trip to Denaro Island?
Okay. To be honest, I never spent any time on the west side of the main island.
Really?
Yeah, I was on the east side. I was on the Suva side the whole time, and then I was on the northern island for the first 6 months. So first 6 months I was on Vanuatu, and then after that I was on the east side. I was over near the capital in Suva. But a lot of the touristy stuff, a lot of the really pretty stuff is on the west side. And the funny thing is, every time I've gone back I think 3 times now. Mm-hmm. Every time I've gone back, I stay for 2 or 3 weeks, but I find myself going to the places that I stayed, even though they're not as cool, they're not as pretty, they're not as beachy, they're not as touristy, but I get to go back and see the people, see the places, do the things that I used to do. But the place that I would definitely recommend to anyone going to Fiji, if you want to see real, raw, beautiful, authentic Fiji, is Kandawu. It's an island, it's a small island just below the main island, and it is unreal. You'll fly a little 10-seater plane over to it, or you can take a night-long boat trip, an 8 to 10 hour boat trip. Don't remember how long it is, but that island is unbelievable.
So what is it that you're doing on the island when you're there?
The things that I'm doing when I'm in Fiji is spearfishing. My last trip, I became addicted to spearfishing. It's the perfect combination of hunting and fishing, which are 2 of my favorite hobbies. So definitely spearfishing. And then honestly, just getting touch in. I play so much touch whenever I go over there because literally everything shuts down from 4 to 7 p.m. Everyone is out playing touch. Every patch of grass has people playing touch on it. A bunch of people playing volleyball, but mostly people out there playing touch. It's pretty dang fun.
Do you think that translates into their national team? Because a lot of the Fiji national team, a lot of their game is offloading. As soon as they're getting touched, they're offloading so quickly.
Most people in America, when they play touch, they'll play 5 touches, for example. In Fiji, everyone plays 1 touch turnover. So if you get touched, you're giving up the ball. That right there. So touch in and of itself, just ingrains skills, ball skills. People that play a lot of touch are usually really, really good rugby players. But Fiji, on top of that, is 1 touch turnover. And so the combination of both and the fact that they do it so much is one of the reasons why those guys literally have glue on their hands. And they know exactly where the ball is going to bounce. They know exactly how it's going to pop up to them. They know exactly when their teammate's going to offload it. It's honestly unreal. It's like a sixth sense. It's crazy.
Well, I'm watching them on the national level and I'm going, man, these guys never ruck. I don't understand why they're not rucking. They're huge. Why are they not doing this? But they just offload as quickly as they could and just kept hitting guys.
Literally straight from the ground while falling around the back behind their head. Yeah. They're unreal. They are unreal.
Do you take any the culture stuff home? I mean,
yeah,
is there something that you still hold on to that you like?
I think for me, the biggest thing is just possessions and objects just really don't matter. They really don't. And I think if you talk to the majority of the friends and family members I'm closest with, they would agree that it's just I just don't necessarily value objects, I think, I used to, if that makes sense. It's just I would way rather do something for someone, even if it means that I'm missing out on that. That's, I think, one of the big things that I learned and I feel is really stuck with me, and I'm trying to embody that, right? But that's one of the big things, is just being selfless, especially when it comes to objects, because they really don't matter,
And let's talk a little bit about your U of U collegiate experience, because again, Christensens don't quit apparently, and especially you, man. You had you had two ACL tears, two meniscus tears, shoulder dislocations, like a bunch of other things that happened, but you didn't miss a game your entire college career. What
Yeah.
what drives you? Are you a machine? Like explain this to me. Like
If I wanted to be able to compete where I wanted to be able to compete, I was just going to have to do a little bit more than some others. And it's basically just like controlling the controllables. And like, I don't think I ever really like conceptually sat down with myself as a child as I was like starting to develop these things. But like, it was just kind of like, what I wanted to do is I wanted to compete at the highest level that I could. And I realized that if I wanted to do that, there are some things that I naturally don't have. So I'm going to have to figure out where we can make up for that somewhere. And I think that the way that I tore my ACLs actually kind of aided me in that process and being able to kind of develop that, because I'd just barely gotten home from Fiji. It was literally like the first like University of Utah rugby session of the season. It was literally just like a meetup. We're just going to play touch. And this was in the fall. It was like November or something. So I show up and we're playing touch, and all of a sudden cut, leg bends weird. And I knew something was up. My leg started swelling up. So I went to the doctor. It turns out my ACL was partially torn. The doctor said you can get surgery. A lot of people do get surgery with a partially torn ACL, but he's like, at the end of the day, you can't hurt your ACL worse, but it will not repair itself. So he's like, you can get surgery or you can wait until it tears all the way. And I was like, to be honest, like if I get surgery now, I miss the season and I don't want to do that. Especially because in collegiate rugby, I don't know if it's still this way, but in collegiate rugby, you have 5 years of eligibility. So you can essentially play your redshirt year if you are healthy. So I decided to just play on a partially torn ACL. And I think that playing on a partially torn ACL, I'd get tape jobs and all that kind of stuff, but playing on a partially torn for the next 4 months, 5 months, I guess really taught my left quad and hamstring how to compensate without having a full ACL. And so I think that like with that tape job, had an awesome trainer. Rick Spencer is like the best rugby tape job human I've ever met in my life. Like his knee tape jobs were unreal. And it just slowly developed the ability to just, with a decent tape job, be able to play. And I remember when it tore all the way for the first time. I remember when it happened, but I finished the game. Like I didn't even come out of the game because I think it was like my body was already used to it. My body was comfortable enough working without an ACL. So finished that season, got it fixed, got surgery, had a crazy successful recovery. Like I was cleared to go back to full activity in 4 months. It was wild. Like I got cleared so quickly and it felt unreal. It felt solid. And it was like game 3 or 4 of the season that next year. I was playing against Oregon State. I was scoring and somebody just blew out my right ankle as I was like diving. And I came out at halftime. that was a fun game because I think I had a hat trick at halftime. And I came out at halftime, which is right when I scored that last one. And I sat the rest of that game. But I think that's literally the only minutes I ever sat when I played at the University of Utah. My freshman year before my mission, I didn't get starts every game or anything like that, but I think I played in every game. But I think outside of my freshman year, those were the only minutes that I sat. And went and worked with the trainer on it. She's like, oh, it's a high ankle sprain. Like it's just there. You can play on it if you want to. And I was like, perfect. Like, let's do it then. I will for sure play on it. And we did a bunch of rehab, a bunch of therapy, of course, taped it up all the time. I started getting Toradol shots. Are you familiar with Toradol?
no, I'm not, but it does sound painful getting shots in your knee. That doesn't sound like a good time at all.
Well, the thing is, Toradol is like actually like an injectable. It's essentially like an injectable ibuprofen as far as I understand it. So our team doc would inject me with this Toradol, and it made it so certain, like it would just like helped manage the pain a little bit, and continued to play. 2 games later, because I was favoring my right ankle, which was sprained, just planted. A teammate was tackling somebody, swung into my left knee, and then tore it again, retore it. So it was a completely fluke accident. It had nothing to do with the fact that my ACL wasn't strong or good or healthy. It was just that I had a right ankle that was injured. Finished the season, and got invited to the All-Americans camp that year. Literally the very first training of the All-Americans camp, I was turning around a cone, felt a pop in my left knee, and my knee was swollen within like 10 minutes. And they sent me home, sent me to the orthopedic in Boston that next morning. And he was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he tore a meniscus. I was like, will you check my stability with my ACL? I'm pretty sure that's torn too, but I haven't seen a doctor for it yet. And he like checked my ACL. He's like, yeah, your ACL's gone as well. And I was like, my right ankle is still super sore. And it's been about 4 months. Like, would you mind x-raying my right ankle? Turns out my right ankle was broken. So it's like I finished that season with a torn ACL, a torn meniscus, and a broken ankle. And I was after I got surgery, I was in a groined ankle what's it called? Brace for my ACL. And then I was in like an up to my knee boot in my right leg on crutches. Like I was like I just got in a car accident or something.
So do you mind just talking a little bit about scrum halves and like what you feel your position is and an equivalent to that in another sport?
Yeah, for sure. And if that's okay, I'll make some comments about fly half as well, because I actually have an interesting kind of analogy. It's awesome. Almost like as if you were to combine basketball and football. I feel like the quarterback is like a fly half, and then a point guard is like a scrum half. In that, like, it is the quarterback or it is the fly half that's looking up and making the majority of those reads. That's reading the defense, finding the space, executing a pass in rugby, executing a kick to that space, all that kind of stuff. Whereas basketball, I feel like the point guard, and it's more like an old school basketball point guard, kind of like a John Stockton type point guard, assist focused point guard, where it's just like your job is to get the ball to the people at the right time in the right place. And so that's kind of how I like to view it when comparing it to other sports.
When people have to overcome adversity to play a sport at a higher level, those make the best kinds of coaches. It's why you can't ask Michael Jordan to be a coach, because Michael Jordan will go, well, just do what I did. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Do you think that coaching would be something that you would want to accomplish in your career, look at doing in your career, or did playing against Sean Davies and then having to be coached by him turn that totally off for you, where you're like, I don't want to do that at all?
No, I love Sean. It honestly was such a funny thing how that whole thing developed, because it was like, even like my parents had animosity toward Sean, and now they absolutely. He was like, oh yeah, he was that guy, and it was like. But no, it's definitely something that I would love to do. Coincidentally, when I sat down with the GM at Utah, and he told me they were willing to try and trade me if I wanted to keep playing, he told me, he's like, we'd love for you to coach, be part of the coaching staff for the selects. And I was like, to be honest, I'm just not quite there yet. And I think because Kimball Kerr was the assistant coach at BYU when I played at the U. And so Kimball saw me constantly just injury ridden and broken, but like still performing, but like just, that a little kind of like made of glass kind of, yeah. Which if you can't handle the physicality at that level, how are you going to handle the physicality at the next level? But Kimball also asked me early on with the rugby Utah team that did put the sevens teams into those tournaments. He asked me, like, the first year they did that, if I wanted to stop playing and I wanted to join the coaching staff. And I was like 26 at the time. And so I think that, like, Kimball has always seen that in me. I think that Brandon has expressed that he's always seen that in me, the GM at Utah. And I think I could do pretty well. I think, especially as an American-born player, I have a decent grasp on the game and tactics. And yeah, I think that it is something that I would love to do, but I'm definitely just not ready to hang the boots up yet.
As one of the great bromances of the MLR, do you and Nindel Sanders still try and set up vacations with each other?
That's a great question. We actually already have one planned.
Oh, that's awesome.
We don't have exact dates. We don't have flights, but we already have one planned. That's hilarious.
Are you guys going to go back to Cambodia, or what are you going?
No, I think we're going to go to Mexico. We're going to stay somewhere a little closer, so when I get hit by a car, it's easier to get home.
Is that what happened? So I was going to ask you about the Instagram post where you're
Yeah.
all like bleeding and you got hit by a car.
Yeah, so me and Niall were just riding back to our little Airbnb. It was like 9:30 in the evening, so it just barely gotten like relatively dark, streetlights on, zipping around on our scooters like all thousands of other people around us on this little 2-lane. And there's some van driving along, like they're like half on the shoulder, half in the lane. And when they do that, like of course the scooters just zip around them, right? So Niall zips around him, and then I'm zipping around him. And right as I start zipping around him, he literally shoots out into the lane and hits me. I'm going about 30. He hits me from the side, but he hits me into oncoming traffic, and there's a car coming this way. So he hits me into oncoming traffic. I bang off the front right of this bumper and back into this car. And then after that car passed, I like skidded out on the concrete. Like my whole, I mean, you can probably see here. I'll show it to you just because it's interesting. Like the pigment just like completely gone there. I had road rash all down my entire back and down my hip and honestly in my ass crack, like everywhere. It was like, it was brutal. But that's the thing is, had that car hit me like half a second earlier, I would have gone right under that other van and I would have died for sure. And me and Niall still had like another month and a half at that point that we were supposed to be out there.
What made you decide on pirate chic as your look?
Oh, that's actually a good question, because ever since COVID, I've always had facial hair of some kind. And for the last 2 years, Tommy Tuavau has convinced me to do Mustache May with him and Movember. And so I've always done it with him. And then this last year, I come to practice on the 1st of May, shaved into my mustache, and Tommy didn't even shave his. And I was like, what the hell, bro? I don't know. I just grew a mustache. I had a beard, cut everything but the mustache, and then let the beard kind of grow back in with the mustache a little bit longer. And I was like, I kind of like this. I started having girls make comments about it, like, oh, I like your mustache. And I was like, oh, is this a thing? And the funny thing is the more ridiculous I let it get, the more comments I would get. It was really, really interesting. And so I decided it's kind of a fun little thing. You know, I kind of have this long hair, like scraggly looking whatever, but it's turned into a little bit of the Captain Hook kind of look, and I'm here for it, you know?
It's a marketing branding kind of deal. You're
exactly.
Good.
We're trying to get my name out there, you know?
Who are you nominating next to come on the show?
I would say maybe Bailey. Bailey would be an interesting one. Bailey would be a fun one to talk to. Oh, you know who actually you should reach out to is Tommy. He has a cool, interesting story, from like fighting MMA to like going on a mission later in life to playing rugby league in England. Like
anything that has not been covered that you're like, dude, I don't know why no one asks me about this. I love this thing I need to talk about.
No, I think the only thing is just like, I'm just so lucky. I mean, you saw it at the game. Like, I have so many family members and friends that are so supportive of me, just like making a seriously financially irresponsible decision of like living the way that I am right now, you know, but like, I literally have all the support in the world. So it's like, I could not be more grateful for like the support group that I have. 'Cause like, it wouldn't be possible without him for sure. And like everybody just like celebrates me going out and doing my thing, which is a pretty dang lucky thing to have. So really just that, honestly.